This is Mike from FearShop.com. Make sure you smash that like button and leave your comments. Also, subscribe to the channel and sign up for notifications so you know when the next video drops. Let's get into it. Today we're talking about Irish horror movies. We recently released a video about St. Patrick's Day horror movies, so it's pretty fitting that we don't forget about the rest of the Irish lore, as there's much more to Irish lore than shamrocks and leprechauns. So keep in mind, our Irish horror movies don't have to specifically do St. Patrick's Day. Some people lump them in all together. Seems so silly. So let's talk about the top 10 Irish horror movies. Let's start off with our honorable mentions. We have The Hallow from 2015, directed by Corin Hardy. A couple travels into a remote forest in Ireland to conduct some research, only to find themselves besieged by creatures who want their infant son and are confined to darkness. This one combines family tragedy and folklore, this time with an element of horror. So The Hallow, it fits in with a lot of the Irish horror movies in this list, but manages to stand out as being a rare creature feature that's well executed, albeit a little familiar though. Next up is Boy Eats Girl from 2005 by Stephen Bradley. Boy Eats Girl, it's a surprisingly charming Irish-made horror comedy about a high schooler played by David Leon who dies and is brought back to life by his mother, but comes back as a flesh-hungry zombie. This complicates his relationship with Jessica, played by Samantha Mumba, the girl he likes. So, especially as the zombie virus begins to spread throughout the school, so more teen comedy than hardcore horror, Boy Eats Girl boasts some likable characters, some genuine sweetness, and it has a little bit of gore as the film goes along. I will say that most people tend to like Boy Eats Girl a little bit more than I do. And finishing off our honorable mentions is Isolation from 2005 by Billy O'Brien. If you're looking for the movie that makes cows scary, look no further. A cattle farmer allows some of his cows to be genetically modified to increase fertility, but what results is a kind of monstrous parasite with the ability to infect humans as well. While a little on the slow side, Isolation's a good enough riff off of John Carpenter's The Thing to warrant a recommendation. The cast is impressive, with early performances from Essie Davis of The Babadook, Sean Harris, the bad guy from Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation, and from Fallout, and Ruth Negga. Now on to the top 10 list. Number 10, Dead Meat from 2004. Irish filmmaker Conor McMahon made his feature debut in 2004 with Dead Meat, which brought zombies back to the home of the leprechauns. Released under Fangoria's Gorezone label, this low-budget film took advantage of the frenzy surrounding mad cow disease at the time and centered around the mutated strain to turn people into flesh-hungry monsters. Dead Meat is notable for being the first film released as part of the Irish Film Board's micro-budget films initiative, and it served as an early glimpse at the madness McMahon would unleash upon the world nearly 10 years later. Number 9, Shrooms from 2007. A group of young friends head out into the woods of Ireland for one purpose and one purpose only, to ingest magic mushrooms and get wasted out of their gourds. This being a horror film, one about young people in the woods, the body count, of course, quickly rises. The stories of sadistic monk roaming the woods true? Are the mushrooms to blame for turning one of the campers into a mass murderer? You have to watch this one to find out. I will say it's a lot of people hate it. I kind of enjoyed Shrooms a little bit though. Number 8, a much more recent film, The Hole in the Ground from 2019 by Lee Cronin. 2019's Hole in the Ground tells the story of a mother whose young son begins acting very strangely after they move into a house in the woods near an enormous sinkhole. The movie plays like the summation of every other Irish horror movie on this list. It's got the Irish countryside, similar to what we've already seen in Isolation and The Hallow. Scary kids, similar to what we see in Citadel and Wakewood. Parents and children at the forefront, again, Citadel, Wakewood, A Dark Song, and Irish folklore, which is a bunch of these movies. So it's not to suggest the movie's derivative, just there appears to be some patterns across this country genre output. Certain themes and tropes that pop up again and again, which are very much present in The Hole in the Ground. It's almost like the greatest hits of Irish horror in this movie. Number 7, Grabbers by John Wright from 2012. One of the few giant creature features ever produced out of Ireland boasts a most inspired premise. A town under siege by giant tentacled monsters with an allergy to alcohol. As if that doesn't sound silly enough, the townsfolk have to stay drunk in order to stay alive and save the day. By leaning into a national stereotype in the premise of the movie, Grabbers manages to be funny and charming while still delivering the goods as a monster movie. Comparisons to Tremors are inevitable, but apt in this situation. Number 6, Stitches from 2012. After making a film called The Disturbed in 2009, Connor McMahon burst onto the radars of more horror fans than ever before with the 2012 release of Stitches, which was also made thanks to a grant from the Irish Film Board. Obviously shot in Ireland, Stitches captures the vibe of old school slasher flicks quite nicely. It's a vengeful, undead birthday clown serving as the film's Jason Voorhees in this situation, packed with laughs, loaded with gore, and an insanely clever use of an umbrella and even a balloon pump. Stitches is truly a fun horror flick and one that I highly recommend that you check out. Number 5, Citadel from 2012 by Sierra and Foy. One of the better killer kid movies of the last 20 years. Citadel finds a man in Anion Barnhart traumatized by tragedy and becoming agoraphobic, making it difficult to raise his infant daughter alone. The screenplay is based in part on a real-life trauma experienced by Foy, who would also go on to direct Sinister 2, by the way. So this kind of helps explain why the movie's brand of paranoid psychological terror feels so immediate and real. It's basically like Polanski's Repulsion meets Cronenberg's The Brood. Really interesting movie. Number 4, The Canal from 2014 by Evan Kavanagh. So Rupert Evans from The Boy plays a film archivist who discovers through an old film that a brutal murder took place at this house in the early 1900s. His cheating wife then goes missing around the same time that he begins to see ghosts. It's tense and pretty well constructed film. The Canal, it's a slow-moving descent into a nightmare with a streak of Fulci-esque Italian horror in the way that the supernatural will suddenly shatter through reality, blurring the lines of what's real and what isn't. There's also an element of David Lynch's Lost Highway as well. Again, another interesting movie. Number 3 is 2016's A Dark Song by Liam Gavin. Like Wakewood before it, A Dark Song centers around a woman played by Catherine Walker who's overwhelmed by grief. She consults an occultist, Stephen Oram, to perform a ceremony she feels will help her find closure. So whereas Wakewood is primarily concerned with what happens after the child is brought back, A Dark Song is more procedural in terms of performing the rites of the ceremony, which get darker and more challenging as the film goes on. This is the debut feature from writer-director Liam Gavin, and essentially an intense 2-character drama authored by a pair of excellent performances and a willingness to fearlessly commit to going places other movies might not dare go to. Number 2, The Lodgers from 2017 by Brian O'Malley. So Brian O'Malley's follow-up to 2014's Let Us Pray, easy for me to say. A nasty little slice of Irish horror, well worth a watch. It's a gorgeous period ghost story about a pair of twins haunted by a curse that keeps them trapped inside their deteriorating family mansion. More concerned with ethereal gothic beauty than actual scares. Let's say more the innocence, more so than The Shining. It's like a lot of horror movies about past tragedies and folklore traditions. It's fascinating to see how many films produced by this country seem to be attempting to deal with their national history inside the Irish, inside of the horror genre. I definitely applaud Irish directors for those kinds of things. It offers a lot of insight into the culture. Coming in at number 1, Wakeley from 2009 by David Keating. It's a 70s inspired effort in addition of Don't Look Now. Wakeley's devastating story of a couple by Evan Berthasol and Game of Thrones' Aidan Gillen, who lost their young daughter to a tragic act of animal violence. So when a stranger, played by Timothy Spall, offers to bring her back for a few days so they can have a proper goodbye, the offer is too tempting for a grieving couple to resist. But as anyone who's read or seen Pet Sematary can tell you, something's off about the couple's newly revived daughter. As someone with young kids, there's a lot of scenes in Wakeley that are hard to watch, but that's a testament to the movie's power and effectiveness. Consider yourself warned. It's the first movie released by the revived Hammer Films, and it was one that was well worth the watch. So that wraps this one up. I want to hear from you. Post your top 10 Irish horror movies in the comments. Let me know which movies in my list you agree with and which ones you disagree with. That's it for this episode. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you share this video. Make sure you subscribe. But most of all, make sure you keep it hard.